It is such a horrible feeling when you're riding along and all of a sudden your horse is like, nope, 180, spins around and takes off in the opposite direction, isn't it? Well, this week's Strides Revisited, I want to deal with that exact topic. A horse that spooks and spins and what you can do. Now, I want you to keep in mind that this is from 2017. And I'm going to be honest, my language was a little bit more direct, okay? Not what I'd say today, I would phrase it differently, but hey, we all live and learn. I think the key message though remains the same. Horses spook when they are unsure, and it's our job to help build trust, understanding and confidence. Okay, so that all being said, let's dive in to this week's Strides Revisited. Let's go. So there you are, riding along, enjoying yourself and your horse and everything's great. And then suddenly, your horse does a sort of spin that puts a figure skating champion to shame, and he is off and running in the opposite direction. Now, sometimes you're still with him on this wild ride, but other times, that spin and that drop of the shoulder was enough to land you on the ground, watching your horse run off into the distance. So what can we do about it? Well, we're going to chat all about that this week. Hi there, my name is Lorna and I would like to welcome you to the Daily Strides podcast, where every week we take a different topic to do with horse riding. This week, of course, being a very important topic, and we work through it step by step. So as you have a little bit of a plan, either in the arena or if something like this crops up, or if your horse has a habit of doing something like this. We create the lessons each week, and of course there are a full week then of audio programs to go with each of the Monday episodes that will really in detail go into it step by step for you, and I'm going to let you know at the end of this how you can get your hands on all that. The other thing that I want to let you know about is the brand new 30-day Rider Fitness Challenge is up and running. If you have not yet signed up, oh, you're missing out, eh? It's great. People are getting fantastic results. The Facebook group is brilliant. Everybody is just so engaged in there. It is fantastic. You need to pop over to 30dayriderfitnesschallenge.com, the number 30. You can sign up there. It's 100% free, and it is new everything. New workouts, new audio programs, new the whole lot. So if you want to join, you can do that over there. But back to today, and back to our spooky horse, okay? So it's one of those things with riding that maybe there's nothing as bad as when it happens, because it kind of takes you in the unawares. And I find that if you're on a horse that has a habit or is known for doing this, the ride is just never relaxing. It never gets to that point where it's really and truly enjoyable, because at any point you know that he can suddenly decide, hey, I'm out of here, and he is gone like a rocket. And as I mentioned earlier, whether you are still on board while he is gone or not is, well, it's debatable. And sometimes you're lucky enough to stay there, other times, as I said, not so much. So what can we start to do about it? Well, first of all, we need to understand that some horses by nature are naturally spooky. It's just like some people by nature are naturally more anxious. So you do have to factor that in. And a lot of the time, it does come down to the horse's own characteristics and his own temperament as to what's going to happen. But the thing is, he should not be allowed to just run away when things happen, okay? There has to be some sort of a program in place that you can begin to allow him to see that he is able to overcome, and that this thing is not going to kill him, and that he's able to overcome this, okay? So that is where we need to start with. Now, first and foremost, it comes down to trust. So just like if you were maybe feeling a little bit anxious and there was somebody there who you really trusted and they were telling you, listen, it's okay, everything's okay, we've got this is fine, you're going to feel a lot better about that. And the same goes with your horse. So you need to start looking at how you can build and develop a better relationship with your horse and more trust in your horse. Now, in order for your horse to trust you, it's really important that he also respects you. And people sometimes get a little bit confused with this. They sometimes think that trust is all about being lovely. And yes, you should be lovely. There's nothing wrong with being lovely. But you also need to be somebody that your horse can respect. And sometimes that means laying down the law and having him adhere to the law, okay? So you need to maybe start to work on some groundwork principles that are going to help with that. And then, of course, that as your relationship grows and grows, he begins to respect you more. But this is going to take quite a bit of time, okay? This is the long game you're talking about here, okay? Get building this respect. In the meantime, you can also begin to work on your aids in the saddle, okay? So a lot of the time when people email me about this particular issue, it is a thoroughbred they'll have mentioned, an OTTB, an off-the-track thoroughbred, and they will say, he spins around and he takes off. Now, not always, okay, but probably 70% of the time. And one of the reasons I think that this happens more so, I think thoroughbreds are fantastic, not just because it's a thoroughbred. I think what it comes down to is the fact that thoroughbreds have, in their past career, in their past life, they haven't had to respect a leg and be responsive to the rider's leg aids, okay? So it's something that's not really part of their training. And a lot of riders don't take the time initially to reschool the thoroughbreds, okay? They get them and they ride them, and of course they are essentially backed and riding. They've been ridden quite a bit, and they try and kind of plug on from there, as opposed to going back and just starting at the beginning, laying a solid foundation and then building on that foundation, okay? So if your horse is not responsive to your leg, this is something that you are going to continue to battle with, because at the end of the day, one of the ways that you can stop your horse, particularly the spinning aspect of this, is through having a strong leg, okay? Now, a lot of people think, okay, so I must just kick the horse on. One of the things is you do have to ride the horse out of it, but you also have to, when you feel that there's a potential for him to do this, okay? Now, and I do know sometimes it happens in the unawares, but you have to be very, very mindful for the first maybe month or two while you're almost retraining him out of this problem. And you have to be very mindful. And when you feel, or when you kind of sense, okay, now there's something up here that, this is one of his triggers, this is something that could happen, you need to start thinking of your legs as being barriers, okay? And they are just not going to allow him to turn. They are funneling him straight on the path that you have chosen. And that is it. There's no if, buts, or as. That's the way you're going, okay? And you need to really, really get that point across. Now, this won't work if your horse is not responsive to your legs. So you really and truly have to go back to the drawing board with that and begin to work on that. Now, the other thing is, if your horse does manage to spin, I strongly suggest bringing him back the way he came. Don't let him do a full circle. Don't let him complete a circle. A lot of riders, they try and almost harness that momentum that the horse has created doing the 180 turn, and they try and then turn him the other 180 all the way around so as he's back 360 the way he started. But I'm going to tell you that I find is a little bit of a recipe for disaster. You have already lost the control when your horse has turned the 180, and that momentum is on your horse's side, not your side. So you need to try and break his momentum. And in breaking his momentum, you also break the trigger, or the sequence of events that's happening in his head. Turn, run, okay? If you can break that, you can then begin to reprogram it a little bit, okay? So as he is turning, and whether he gets to the full 180 and he begins to take off in the opposite direction, or if you can get him that he only gets to the 90 and then later 45, that he's not turning the whole way around, you need to send him back the way he came, okay? So if he basically spins around to the right, you are going to send him back to the left, okay? So as he's back the way he came, and he is sitting there ready, and from basically the part where he stopped, where the ride that you had that was going forward, where it halted, you need to get him back onto that place and then continue to ride him forward, okay? So if you can do that, and this is a combination, it's going to be a combination, I find, of course, leg. As I said, your leg's going to block. So again, let's say your horse is going to spin to the right. It would be your right leg would block there. Your left hand is going to come into play. But not only that, I sometimes find then as well that your right hand, your outside rein, is also going to come into play to just help to bring him over. You don't want to give him a way out, okay? Now, from a rider's point of view, you're thinking, yeah, but Lorna, come now, I'm almost off the horse at this point. You have to have the weight down into your heels. I can't stress this enough. Weight down into the heels. If your legs are lovely and long around him and the weight into the heels, yes, it's going to take your upper body a couple of maybe split seconds to catch up with your lower body, but it will catch up, okay? Your legs are doing the work. You're balancing yourself. You're there, and then you can just bring him back. But again, noticing those trigger points and then preparing for it and not allowing the spin to happen to begin with. Now, I mentioned earlier in this that this can very often become a habit. And it can. I think it doesn't start out as that. It starts out as the horse being genuinely afraid, and he gets a fright. Something spooks him. He decides, hey, I'm out of here. It's a natural reaction, and that's fine. But if he gets away with it 2 or 3 times, you will find that then it becomes, as soon as there's a little bit maybe of discomfort, and I'm not talking about physical pain. I'm talking about here that maybe he has to go past something that he's not 100% sure of, or perhaps he has to leave the other horses and he doesn't want to. He likes that security of the herd, or maybe he has to go down a strange road. He's never been there before, and he's just not feeling confident in himself. So as soon as he's feeling any sort of, I suppose, emotional, we could say, discomfort, that habit is going to kick in. He is going to say, you know what? I'm out of here. Last time I spun and I ran, I got away with it. It got me out of there and I didn't have to go back. So I'm going to do the same thing. So it's really important that you push on through. Now, how do you push on through? Well, you can get another horse to help you and lead, basically become a lead to get through it initially. Okay. Now, obviously you want to get to the point where the horse is going to go out on his own. He's going to ride on his own and be comfortable on his own. But again, coming back to what we said at the very beginning, it is a trust thing, and it's going to take a long time to develop that relationship. So in the meantime, you need to have strategies in place that's going to get you past it. Okay. So as I say, a lead horse can help. Even somebody on the ground or on a bicycle in front of you can also help. We find a lot here with the horses, and this is all horses, and particularly the younger, even the ponies, the younger ones, that they don't enjoy being in the lead. And we make a point of, they almost take kind of turns, particularly when we're on hacks or trails or outrights. They take turns in taking over the lead, okay? And what I find often helps is that if I am on the ground on a bicycle in front, now bearing in mind this has generally happened during lessons. So if I am on the ground on a bicycle in front of them, and I just keep cycling and keep talking, as though there's nothing wrong. Everything is good. So I can have a chat with the rider. That very often helps to calm the rider as well. So if you can get a person on a bicycle in front of you, or even on their feet in front of you and walking, and get them to keep talking, mundane stuff, but keep talking. You, the rider, you need to keep chatting as though nothing's happening, okay? This is where your acting skills have to come into play. And then in doing that, the horse very often, once they learn that, hold on, I done that and nothing happened. Look at this. I made it home to tell the tale. Okay, I live to fight another day. Woohoo. It's done. It's finished. And it builds confidence every single time. So you need to try and look around at ways that you can make this happen. Now, another long-term thing would be to set up some sort of an obstacle course for yourself in an arena. I say an arena, you want this in a fairly enclosed space that's going to be safe. And an obstacle course being, you're thinking all sorts of military assault courses here. No. All you want is a few kind of household items, such as maybe an umbrella, a jacket, your horse's blanket, lots of things, just kind of space them around the arena. What I would say here is important is to take any of the, wings or anything that he could maybe spin around into and hurt himself. Take those out of the space. So you want this just to be nice and basic, stuff on the ground. Don't do it on a windy day. Choose your time, okay? Choose your time where he's also not going to be distracted about things outside of the arena. You want to try and keep his concentration. And you could initially start working through this on the ground. So just leading him through, weaving in and out through all these obstacles, and then later in the saddle, riding in and out, and then later building up to the point where you're actually bringing him up to the obstacle to see the actual thing, okay? So there's a lot of ways that you're going to that you can, I suppose, use to try and combat this. And the big thing, I keep saying it, is it takes time, and it's going to take consistent effort and, I suppose, very conscientious and mindful effort on your part in order to rid you and your horse of this experience. It's not pleasant for anybody, and to get back on the straight and narrow. So I want to end this by just saying that if you are currently maybe having this, perhaps one of the best things you could do right now is to ask a more experienced rider to get onto your horse, because I can tell you, if it continuously keeps happening, you are going to sit with a big problem, because, as I mentioned, your horse then, it begins to become the almost go-to thing for him to do as soon as he's feeling discomfort. So, and again, not physical discomfort, it's like an emotional or mental discomfort. So maybe if you can find a rider who would help you out and get onto your horse and just ride him through it a few times. And you want somebody who's going to be pretty sympathetic here. You want somebody, if you can imagine, almost like a school teacher. They're going to be strict. They're going to be like, there's no messing with it. That's it. You're going forward. But they do it in a sympathetic sort of a way, okay? Yeah, I don't agree with like beating the horse and kicking him and to get him past it. He's doing this because he's afraid. And you making this into a big negative thing is not going to in any way dissipate that fear, okay? You want to have him relaxed. He needs to know that the person who's riding him is somebody who can kind of look out for him and isn't going to let anything bad happen, I suppose. That's the long and the short of it. I know that sounds very strange talking about a horse, but there you go. That is where it has to come from. And when you're looking for that person, make sure it is somebody like that. Don't get somebody who's just going to take a whip to the horse and, you know, very kind of gung-ho, that horse is going no matter what, okay? You want to do it in a sympathetic manner. Okay, I'm going to leave it at that. We are going to be chatting about this all this week. We're going to be going into more detail on all these different strategies. If you would like to join us, you can pop on over to stridesforsuccess.com/join. And of course, you get not only all this week's lessons, but also all the past lessons in there as well. Have a great one. Keep well, and I'll chat to you soon. Be good. Bye. So there you have it. Now, what I'm going to do is I will make sure that those lessons, the full week of lessons, so the training on this is inside of Connection. It'll probably be in the reschooling collection. If I'm to think if I'm to choose where to put it, that's where I'm going to put it. So if you want to get that, if you join Connection, all of it will be in there, as well as all the other collections as well. Okay, we've collections on basically everything you can think of. So yeah, I will put that in there. And the other thing I'm going to suggest you do, if you haven't already, is to pop over to stridesforsuccess.com/15 and get the basically list of things you can do with your horse in 15 minutes or less. I think that from a building trust and building partnership perspective, there's some great ideas in there that you can begin today to help you and your horse to move through this if it's been an issue for both of you. So you can get that over at stridesforsuccess.com/15, and you can join me inside of Connection to get the full week of lessons on this topic over at stridesforsuccess.com/join. Okay, have a lovely day, and I'll chat to you soon. Be good. Bye.